markets are growing, continuously growing, our dividend expectations as a society is traded off with capital growth. And when the markets are down in the Great Depression, the dividend expectations were the highest. And as you can see that the dividend expectations or the dividend provided by the components of an index also move in a cyclical order. It moves, dividend expectations are higher, dividend expectations are lower, and dividend expectations are higher and they are lower. Then we have the price assets. Now this is the dollar index, and as you can see, I have just taken the lows, and you can see that there is a kind of order in the cyclicality between the lows. When I plot the lows, I start seeing some order in terms of lows. And if this is a large low on dollar, and if a multi-decade low on dollar has been reached, we are talking about a secular strengthening of dollar at least for a few years. So the same cyclicality which we read about and which historians talked about, and which seems like mystical, and which people like Benner made a clock out of it by putting exact years, can also be visually seen from plain prices. You can see a plain price and you can see some order there. It's unfortunate that we do not have large historical data. We do not have more than 10 years of data for many emerging markets. We do not have many more than 20 years data for some advanced markets. So there is a limited amount of data that can be studied, and plus human beings or investors or traders, research is a very hard task. Studying of history is a very hard task. We are so much as a pleasure driven society, and when the times are good, so of course there are good times and bad times. In a bad time, the people and the society wants to learn more and becomes more positive, and in good times, the people and the society becomes more complacent and learns less. So one thing is good, that bad times are always good time to learn, because we have to survive and we have to innovate, and that's why there was no better time to learn and talk about time. So this is the dollar cycle I'm showing you, and I'm trying to explain that how a secular dollar strengthening is so visually visible that one may not have to do a lot of macro perspective and analysis to understand that why is the dollar rising. Why can't we just identify a time cycle low and say, yes, this is a large time cycle low and this order has repeated many times. This data here on dollar is less for us to talk about surely about a classic cycle, but there is some order that I have tried to highlight here. And then we have the interest rate cycles. We have here the 3000 years of interest rate cycles, and you can see how the 3000 years of interest rates have behaved, and how there started to be a formation in interest rate structures, and we are at an all time or at a very large time low of interest rates, and which also explains that why interest rates may not be falling for a long time, why markets are headed more for inflation than deflation. If we are at a all time interest lows, then we can expect the interest rates to rise, and if interest rates rise, it can be inflationary. It cannot be deflationary. So these are the larger interest rate cycles, and there is one thing you should observe here, that they all cycle. When we talk about cycle, they do look like oscillators. they oscillate, they move up and they move down. When we look at a price, we don't see the cycle because price has a bias and price has a trend. When it has a trend, we do not see the time because the trend uh, uh, is it's not detrended. The prices are not detrended. Because of the trend, we forget the cyclical action. Here, this is Yale Hirsch. Yale Hirsch is the researcher behind the January effect, and Yale Hirsch is the thinker behind the Santa Claus rally, and Yale Hirsch is the man behind the US presidential cycle, the 4-year cycle. And here we have illustrated the 4-year cyclicality in the Dow Jones, the US presidential cycle, and it has an uncanny workability. There are times it has not worked, there are times it has failed, but it seems like disbelief how a US presidential cycle has gone by the book. There are certain rules being written that if the president is re-elected, how should the market behave if the in the second term, like when George Bush was re-elected. In a re-election year, markets have a very subdued cycle, and in 2004-2005 we saw a very subdued cycle and market did not correct, and it correct in the final year when when the new leader came. So the rule, the price cycle time goes by the book, and it is a large history. It has been started from 1960s, 1950s, and it seems to work. And then we have the Kuznets. Simon Kuznets got a Nobel Prize, for his work on economic growth, and he is also the man behind the Kuznets cycles. He was talking about the 15-20 year cycle. He's one of the cyclists who have been awarded and who has been known for his sizable contribution. 1969. Then we have William Stanley Jevons. He was the man who found that sunspots were cyclical, and he was the one to identify it. Then we have the excitement cycles, which were connected with the sunspot, that there are cycles in excitement. The market, the society is less excited, is fearful, is tolerant, and is passive and lacks unity. These are the times of low times, when we had only one television channel. We had to see only one television channel, and we were so happy seeing that one television channel. And there was, and many people did not have televisions, so they used to go to friends' places to see television. And then excitability grows, people start to get excited, prosperity grows, and then there is a peak excitability. There is complacency, there is rioting, there is complaining, and after that there is another 4 years where excitability decreases. People get punished, and they are so much subdued and so much sad, so much depressed, that they cry for peace. So these excitability cycles have been also studied for 405 plus years, where these cycles have been talked about, and how human beings go from less excitement to large excitement to peak excitement and to drop in excitement, and which has been also connected with sunspots. So we have written about the excitement cycles. You can read it on the this blog on excitement cycle. And what happens next is that we go on to further research being done by cyclists who observe historical data and who talked about cycles. Joseph Kitchen was the one who talked about the 3.3 year cycle, an inventory cycle. And then we had the the Joseph Schumter, who talked about the combination between Kondrate, between Kuznets, between juggler and kitchen cycle, and he said that they can be added together to make a composite cycle. So there was already attempts pretty early trying to understand time. For a few hundred years we have been trying to understand time and see why is this order, why is this cyclicality, why is this preordained structure happens again and again. Then we have uh, Clement Juggler, and he was the one who talked about the 7 to 11 year investment, fixed investment cycle. We have uh, the Kondratev cycle, which is a very popular cycle of 54-year cycle, which talks about inflation and disinflation and deflation and commodity prices structure and how the larger time frame of prices. There is a lot of school of thought which says that sometimes Kondratev cycle works and sometimes the Kondratev cycles doesn't work. This is the one which is the William Strauss and Neil Hobbs cycle, where they talk about generational cycles, where they are speaking about how generations repeat, how society uh, uh, comes again and has a similar behavior or nature of of uh, of expression. And William Strauss and Howe have written many books on this, and you can read their patterns on human society, which is cyclical. Then we have Sam Stovall. This is one fundamental, the chief fundamental strategist at S&P. He was the one who talked about sector rotation. He was the one who, being a fundamentalist, talked about cyclicality, where he said that there are various sectors and there is an economic cycle. Some sectors outperform better in some economic stage, and some sectors are doing worse in an economic stage. For example, when we are in the early expansion, technology sector does well. When we move into middle expansion, transportation sector does well. Then people have to build industries, and capital good does well. Then we are talking about that because of industry growth, the basic materials start becoming expensive. As we move ahead from middle expansion to late expansion, energy cost of using energy becomes higher, oil becomes expensive, and that's when the economic cycle is turned down, and then we move to food. The food becomes the more important, because people still have to eat, and the consumer staples are the one which outperform in this part of the economic cycle. And as we start to contract, utility companies, electricity companies, water companies, anything which is linked with the basic need starts to deliver, because the markets are down, the consumption are down, and only thing which is still delivering are utility companies, because they continue to sell power to homes and industries. And as the economic cycle starts to the next stage, it comes the financials and the credit, the banking system starts to outperform again, because credit starts to increase. So it's also a credit cycle he talked about. But the beauty of this is that he connected with market technicians very well. He was the one who said that technical analysis uh, is not just about patterns. Technical analysis or fundamental analysis is also about cyclicality, and he was the one who brought from a fundamental view a cycle view, and he made this presentation at MTA New York. And he did express some expression. He said that I was surprised that why the MTA is calling me to speak about sector cycles, because I'm not a market chartist. And then he explained his theory.